The fluorescent lights of the diner buzzed like angry wasps, casting a sickly yellow glow over the cracked vinyl booths. My fingers ached as I wiped down the same table for the third time, the smell of stale coffee and burnt grease clinging to my uniform like a second skin. It was nearly midnight, and the exhaustion had settled deep into my bones, the kind that no amount of sleep could cure. "Emma, table 6 needs more coffee," barked Jerry from behind the counter, his voice cutting through the hum of the overhead lights. I nodded, grabbing the pot with hands that trembled slightly. 3 double shifts this week. My feet screamed in protest with every step, blisters rubbing raw against the inside of my cheap sneakers. This was my life now. This was what I'd become. The bell above the door chimed, and I looked up more out of habit than interest. The man who walked in didn't belong here. That was my first thought. He moved through the grimy diner like a shadow passing through light. Tall, dark suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months, perfectly tailored to broad shoulders that spoke of controlled power. His black hair was styled back, revealing a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb the light around them. But it wasn't just him. 2 men flanked him. Massive, alert, their eyes constantly scanning the room. Security. The kind you only saw in movies or outside expensive hotels in the city. They took positions near the door and by the window, their stance casual but ready. I felt my breath catch. He was young, maybe early 30s, but carried himself with the authority of someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. And he was beautiful in that dangerous way that made smart women turn around and walk in the opposite direction. "Emma!" Jerry's voice snapped me back to reality. "The coffee?" Right. Coffee. I was just the invisible waitress. People like him didn't see people like me. I approached table 6, a regular old Mr. Patterson, and refilled his cup with hands that suddenly felt clumsy. But I could feel eyes on me, dark eyes, watching. The awareness prickled across my skin like static electricity. "You look tired, sweetheart," Mr. Patterson said kindly, his weathered face creasing with concern. "I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile that felt like cracking plaster. "Just a long week." When I turned to head back to the counter, I nearly collided with a wall of expensive fabric and cologne, something dark and woodsy that made my head spin. I stumbled back, the coffee pot tilting dangerously in my hand. A hand shot out, steadying the pot with long fingers that were surprisingly gentle despite their obvious strength. I looked up, way up, into those impossibly dark eyes. "Careful." His voice was low, smooth as aged whiskey, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. It rolled through me like distant thunder. "I'm sorry," I stammered, heat flooding my cheeks. "I didn't see you. No harm done." He didn't move, didn't step back. Instead, he studied me with an intensity that made me feel simultaneously exposed and invisible, like he was reading every secret I'd ever kept, every mistake I'd ever made, every scar I tried to hide. This close, I could see details I shouldn't notice. A small scar through his left eyebrow, the shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his suit jacket hung open just enough to reveal a crisp white shirt, and my breath caught. What looked like a leather holster. I stepped back, breaking whatever spell had fallen over me. I should get back to work. He inclined his head slightly, a gesture that felt almost old world, and moved past me to a booth in the corner. The booth with the best view of the entire diner, I noticed. The booth where someone could see all the exits. I busied myself with cleaning, with refilling coffee, with anything that kept me from looking at that corner booth. But I felt his gaze like a physical touch, warm and heavy and completely unnerving. "Who's the suit?" I asked Jerry quietly when I returned to the counter. Jerry's face had gone pale. "Don't know. Don't want to know. Just stay out of his way, Em. Guys like that, they're nothing but trouble." But trouble found me anyway. It always did. I was wiping down the counter when I heard my phone buzzing in my apron pocket. The screen lit up with a name that made my stomach drop. Marcus. My ex. The man who'd taken everything from me and left me with nothing but debt and shame. I should have ignored it. Should have deleted his number months ago. But some sick part of me still hoped. Hoped for what? I didn't know. An apology? An explanation? I stepped into the back room, the one that smelled like old mops and desperation, and answered. What do you want, Marcus? His laugh came through the line, cruel and sharp. Just calling to see how my favorite charity case is doing. Still slinging coffee to drunks? My fingers tightened around the phone. I'm hanging up. Wait. I actually have some news you might want to hear. His voice dripped with false sweetness. You remember Vanessa? The woman I left you for? How could I forget? The beautiful, successful lawyer who'd been sleeping with my fiancé for 6 months before he finally worked up the courage to tell me. The woman who got everything I was supposed to have. We're getting married, Em. Big wedding. The kind you always dreamed about. He paused, letting it sink in. You know what the funniest part is? She's everything you tried to be and failed. Successful, beautiful, not drowning in my debts because she's actually worth something. Tears burned behind my eyes. But I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Congratulations. Oh, don't be bitter. I'm just calling to give you some friendly advice. Stop waiting for your life to get better. Stop hoping some prince is going to come save you. You're nobody, Emma. You'll die alone in some shitty apartment, and no one will even notice you're gone. His laugh echoed in my ear. Face it. You're not the kind of woman men fight over. You're the kind they leave behind. The line went dead. I stood there in that dingy back room, phone still pressed to my ear, feeling the words sink into my skin like poison. The worst part? He was probably right. I was nobody. Nothing. Just another invisible person serving coffee and counting tips and praying I could make rent. The tears came then, hot and bitter, and I hated myself for them. Hated that I was crying over a man who'd stolen from me, lied to me, and left me to clean up his mess. Hated that I still let his words hurt me. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually, the tears stopped. I wiped my face with rough paper towels, checked my reflection in the cracked mirror, red eyes, splotchy skin, the picture of pathetic, and forced myself back out into the diner. The corner booth was empty. Something like disappointment flickered through me, which was ridiculous. What did I care if some dangerous-looking stranger had left? But then Jerry called out, Emma, someone left this for you. On the counter sat a $100 bill and a business card. Heavy cardstock, expensive. Just a name, Dante Moretti, and a phone number. No company, no title, nothing else. He asked specifically for you, Jerry said, his voice tight with warning. Said to tell you. He swallowed hard. Said to tell you that you're wrong about being nobody. My hands trembled as I picked up the card. How had he heard? The back room was through a closed door, and I'd kept my voice low. Unless... I looked up at the corner booth again, and for the first time, I noticed the angle. The booth was positioned perfectly to see not just the exits, but also the slim gap in the back room door. A gap I'd never noticed before. A gap just wide enough to carry sound if someone knew how to listen. He'd heard everything. He'd heard Marcus tear me apart, heard me cry, heard every humiliating second of my breakdown. And instead of leaving like any normal person would, he'd left a tip that was more than I made in a night and a card with his name. Who is he? I whispered. Jerry's face had gone from pale to gray. Emma, I don't know for sure. But guys like that, expensive suits, bodyguards, that kind of presence, they're connected. You understand what I'm saying? Connected. Mafia. He meant mafia. I should have thrown the card away. Should have forgotten the whole encounter. Should have gone back to my invisible life of coffee stains and broken dreams. Instead, I slipped the card into my pocket, my fingers brushing over the embossed letters of his name. Dante Moretti. The name felt dangerous on my tongue. Even unspoken. The name felt like a door opening into a darkness I couldn't begin to understand. That night, after my shift ended at 2 a.m., I walked to my apartment through streets that smelled like rain and exhaust. The building was old, the kind with peeling paint and a front door that didn't quite lock. My studio was on the 4th floor, barely big enough for a bed and a kitchenette, with windows that looked out onto a brick wall. I dropped my keys on the counter and pulled out the card again. In the dim light of my single lamp, the name seemed to shimmer. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You deserve better than dying alone, Emma. You deserve to be fought over. My heart stopped, then started again. Too fast, too hard. Another text. Keep the card. You'll need it sooner than you think. I stared at the screen, fingers frozen. How did he get my number? How did he know what Marcus had said? The exact words? A third text. Sleep well. You're safe tonight. The last part should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a promise wrapped in a threat. Safe from what? Safe from whom? And what happened tomorrow? I walked to my window, pulling back the thin curtain. 4 floors down, on the empty street, a black car idled at the curb. In the driver's seat, I could make out a figure, watching, waiting. Protecting or hunting, I couldn't tell which. I let the curtain fall and backed away from the window, my pulse thundering in my ears. This was insane. This was dangerous. This was everything I should run from. But as I climbed into my cold bed, Marcus's words echoed in my head. You'll die alone. No one will fight over you. And somewhere in the darkness of my room, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, he'd been wrong. I wondered what it would feel like to be worth fighting for. I wondered if I'd just made a terrible mistake by not throwing that card away. And I wondered what Dante Moretti wanted from someone like me, someone invisible, someone broken, someone who had nothing left to lose. The question kept me awake until dawn painted my brick wall gray, and even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life had just tilted on its axis, that everything was about to change, that I'd already stepped into a cage I didn't yet understand, one made of dark eyes and darker promises, of protection and possession, of a danger I couldn't name but could feel in my bones. The card burned in my pocket like a brand. And somewhere in the city, I knew he was still watching. I lasted 3 days before everything fell apart. 3 days of pretending the card in my pocket didn't exist. 3 days of double shifts at the diner, of avoiding Jerry's worried glances, of ignoring the black car that appeared on my street every night like clockwork. 3 days of telling myself I imagined the whole thing, that Dante Moretti was just some rich businessman who'd felt sorry for the pathetic waitress crying in a back room. But rich businessmen didn't have bodyguards who moved like predators. They didn't leave $100 tips for burnt coffee. And they definitely didn't send text messages at 3 a.m. that made my skin prickle with equal parts fear and something I refused to name. On the 4th day, Marcus made sure I couldn't pretend anymore. I was walking home from my shift, the October air biting through my thin jacket, when I saw the eviction notice, orange paper screaming against my apartment door like a wound. 72 hours to vacate. Past due rent, it said. 3 months past due. My hands shook as I tore it down. 3 months? I'd paid. I'd scraped together every penny, lived on ramen and hope, and I'd paid. Inside my apartment, I pulled up my bank account on my phone. The screen swam before my eyes as I scrolled through transactions. There, 3 payments to my landlord. 3 payments that had cleared my account and disappeared into the void. I called the property management office, my voice cracking. There's been a mistake. I paid. I have proof. Ms. Chen. The woman on the other end sighed, the sound of someone who'd had this conversation 1,000 times. According to our records, we haven't received payment since July. If you have proof of payment, you'll need to dispute it with your bank, but the eviction stands until— Please. The word broke out of me. Please, I have nowhere else to go. I paid. I swear I paid. I'm sorry. 72 hours, the line went dead. I sat on my bed, really just a mattress on the floor, and felt the walls closing in. This was it. Rock Bottom had a basement, and I'd just found it. My phone rang. Marcus. Of course it was Marcus. Hello, Emma. His voice oozed false sympathy. Heard you're having some housing troubles. Ice flooded my veins. What did you do? Me? Nothing. But you know, funny thing about those payments you thought you made. Turns out your dear old landlord is a poker buddy of mine. We got to talking, and I mentioned how you still owed me money. Remember? The 10 grand you borrowed for my business venture? I never borrowed anything. You stole from me. Not how the signed loan agreement reads. The one you signed when you thought we were building a future together. His laugh was razor sharp. Anyway, My buddy agreed to help me recoup my losses, redirected your rent payments to settle your debt to me. All perfectly legal, by the way. You should really read things before you sign them. My throat closed. The loan agreement. The one he'd presented to me 3 years ago, saying we were partners, that we'd build his restaurant together. The one I'd signed because I loved him and trusted him and believed in us. The restaurant that never existed, the money that disappeared, the debt that was never mine but had my name on it anyway. You can't do this. Already did. And Emma? This is just the beginning. You cost me my restaurant dream. You think you can just walk away and start over? I'm going to make sure everyone knows what a failure you are. What a nobody. I'm going to destroy every pathetic attempt you make at happiness until you understand. You were nothing before me, and you'll be nothing after me. Why? The word came out as a whisper. Why do you hate me this much? Because you were supposed to love me enough to let me go. Instead, you made me the villain. You told your friends, your family, that I was the bad guy, that I used you. His voice dropped, venomous. Now everyone will see the truth, that you're the disaster, the mistake, the girl who couldn't keep a man even when she gave him everything. He hung up. I sat there, staring at nothing, feeling the last threads of my life unraveling. No home, no savings, no one to call for help because I'd pushed everyone away after Marcus, too ashamed to admit how badly I'd been played. The card felt like it was burning through my pocket. You'll need it sooner than you think. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them, pulling out the heavy cardstock, tracing the embossed letters. What kind of person was I becoming, that I was actually considering calling a man who radiated danger like heat from a flame? But what choice did I have? I dialed the number. It rang once. Emma. Not a question. He'd been waiting. His voice did something to my insides, made them twist and tighten in ways I didn't want to examine. How did you know it was me? I know everything about you. Matter of fact. Not creepy somehow. Just true. You need help. Not a question either. Statement of fact. My voice cracked. Pride warred with desperation, and desperation won. I don't have anywhere else to turn. Your ex. He's not finished hurting you. Again, not a question. How did he know? He's taking everything. I have 3 days before I'm on the street, and I can't. The words tangled in my throat. Where are you? My apartment, but I don't think. Address. Something in his tone made me obey. I rattled off the address, my voice small. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone but me. 20 minutes. Wait, you don't have to, but he'd already hung up. I paced my tiny studio, wearing a path in the threadbare carpet. What was I doing? I didn't know this man. Didn't know what he wanted, what he'd demand in return for whatever help he was offering. Men like him didn't do anything for free. But men like Marcus destroyed women for sport, and at least Dante had been honest about being dangerous. 18 minutes later, a knock sounded at my door, firm, controlled. I checked the peephole. Dante stood in my hallway, somehow making the dingy corridor look even more pathetic by comparison. He'd lost the suit jacket, his white shirt rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars. Behind him, one of his security guards waited, silent and alert. I opened the door. He filled the doorway, and for a moment, we just looked at each other. His dark eyes swept over my face, cataloging every tear track, every sign of my breakdown. I waited for judgment, for pity. Instead, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a quiet click. Tell me everything, and I did. The whole pathetic story spilled out. Marcus, the fake restaurant, the loan agreement I'd signed, the stolen rent payments, the eviction. Every humiliating detail of how thoroughly I'd been played. Dante listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When I finished, throat raw from talking, he pulled out his phone. Marco, he said quietly. I need information on Marcus Chen. Everything. Bank accounts, properties, business dealings, parking tickets. I want to know what he ate for breakfast 3 years ago. A pause. 1 hour. He hung up and turned those dark eyes back to me. You're not getting evicted. I don't have the money to fight this. You're not getting evicted. he repeated, each word deliberate. Because you're not staying here. My heart stuttered. What? This place isn't safe. Your ex knows where you live. He's escalating. Men like him, when they start, they don't stop until they've taken everything. He moved closer, and I could smell that dark cologne again. Could feel the heat radiating from him. I'm taking you somewhere he can't reach you. I can't just leave. My job. You work yourself to death for minimum wage and tips that barely cover your bills. That's not a life, Emma. That's survival. His voice softened, but somehow became more dangerous. I'm offering you a choice. Come with me. Let me handle this. And you'll never have to worry about Marcus or rent or where your next meal comes from again. And what do you want in return? The question came out steadier than I felt. A smile ghosted across his lips. Not kind, but not cruel either. Something in between. Your trust. Your honesty. Your presence. He reached out and I held my breath as his fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face. The touch was feather-light, but it sent electricity racing down my spine. I want you to stop being invisible, Emma. I want you to understand that you're worth fighting for. Why? The word barely made it past my lips. You don't know me. Why would you care? His hand dropped, but his eyes held mine captive, because 3 nights ago, I watched a woman apologize for existing. I watched her cry in a back room, because some coward convinced her she was nothing. And when she came back out, she smiled for the customers like her heart wasn't breaking. He paused. You're not nothing, Emma, and I'm going to make sure you never forget that again. The words should have sounded possessive. Should have raised every red flag I'd learned to watch for after Marcus. Instead, they felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. Pack what matters, he said, stepping back. 5 minutes. I can't just... This is insane. 5 minutes, Emma. Not harsh. Just absolute. Or I'll pack for you. I moved on autopilot, throwing clothes into a duffel bag, grabbing my laptop and the small box of photos that were all I had left of my family. It took 3 minutes. When I turned around, Dante was holding the eviction notice, studying it with an expression that made my blood run cold. Pure, controlled rage simmered beneath his calm exterior. He's going to regret this, Dante said quietly. By tomorrow morning, Marcus Chen is going to wish he'd never heard your name. I don't want you to hurt him. I won't. He folded the notice carefully, precisely. I won't lay a finger on him. I won't need to. His eyes met mine. There are worse things than physical pain, Emma. There's watching everything you've built crumble. There's having your secrets exposed. There's understanding, finally, that you've made an enemy you can't fight. A shiver ran through me. This was who he was. Not just dangerous, but the kind of dangerous that moved through the world, reshaping it to his will. Ready? He asked, gentler now. I nodded, not trusting my voice. In the hallway, his security guard took my bag without a word. We descended the 4 flights in silence, and when we stepped outside, I expected the black car. What waited instead made my breath catch. A sleek black SUV with windows so dark they looked like obsidian. The security guard opened the back door, and Dante gestured for me to enter. The interior smelled like leather and money. Dante slid in beside me, and the door closed with a heavy, final sound, like a cage clicking shut, like a decision I couldn't take back. As we pulled away from my building, my old life, I watched it disappear in the darkened window. Somewhere in that car, between the plush leather seats and the man who radiated barely leashed power, I felt the last threads of Emma Chen, the invisible waitress, snap and fall away. Where are we going? I asked. Dante's hand found mine in the darkness between us, his fingers warm and strong. Home. Not his home. Home. Like I already belonged there. Like I'd always belonged there. And despite every instinct screaming that I was making a terrible mistake, I let my fingers curl around his, let him hold my hand like I was something precious, let myself believe, just for a moment, that maybe Marcus had been wrong, that maybe I wasn't going to die alone after all. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building I'd passed 100 times but never imagined entering. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city lights like scattered diamonds, and the space itself was bigger than the entire floor of my old apartment building. Everything was sharp angles and expensive materials, marble, dark wood, steel that gleamed like a blade's edge. But it was the art that caught my attention. Not generic hotel paintings, but real pieces. Dark, beautiful, violent things that spoke of passion and pain. A bronze sculpture of a woman breaking free from chains, an oil painting of a storm-tossed sea. A photograph of ruins reclaimed by nature. "You appreciate beauty in broken things," I said softly, trailing my fingers near, but not touching the bronze woman. Dante stood behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. "I appreciate things that refuse to stay broken." His breath stirred my hair. "Things that survive." A woman appeared from one of the corridors. Older, elegant, with silver-threaded hair and kind eyes. "Mr. Moretti, shall I prepare the guest room?" "No." The word was absolute, the room adjoining mine. "I want her close." My cheeks burned. The woman, housekeeper, assistant, didn't even blink. "Of course. I'll have fresh linens brought up immediately." She disappeared as silently as she'd arrived. "That's not necessary," I started. "I can take any room." Dante turned me to face him, his hands on my shoulders, firm but careful. "You're under my protection now, Emma. That means you stay where I can reach you, where I know you're safe." His thumbs traced small circles against my collarbone, and my breath hitched. "Do you understand?" I should have argued. Should have insisted on boundaries, on maintaining some distance from this man who looked at me like I was something he intended to keep. Instead, I nodded. "Good girl." The praise shouldn't have affected me, shouldn't have sent warmth pooling low in my belly, but it did. And from the slight curve of his lips, he knew it. He released me, stepping back. "Marco will be here soon with information on your ex. While we wait, you should eat. You're too thin." "I'm not." "When did you last have a real meal? Not coffee and whatever scraps they let you take from the diner." I opened my mouth to protest, then closed it. He was right. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten something that wasn't leftovers or instant noodles. Within minutes, the elegant woman returned with a tray. Not takeout containers, but actual plated food, pasta and a cream sauce that smelled like heaven, fresh bread, a salad with vegetables I couldn't afford at the grocery store. "Sophia has been with my family for 20 years, Dante said, guiding me to a dining table that could seat 12. "She fusses." "I don't fuss, I care." Sophia's voice carried from the kitchen, making Dante's lips twitch in something almost like a smile. I ate because he watched me, those dark eyes tracking every bite like he was memorizing the sight. It should have been uncomfortable. Instead, it felt like being seen for the first time in years. Really seen. Halfway through the meal, a knock sounded. The security guard from earlier entered, followed by a lean man with sharp features and calculating eyes. He carried a tablet and an expression that said he'd found something interesting. "Marco," Dante acknowledged. Marco's gaze flicked to me, assessment and curiosity in equal measure, before focusing on his boss, Marcus Chen, 32. Currently engaged to Vanessa Hartley, criminal defense attorney. On the surface, he's clean. Marketing consultant, modest income, no criminal record. "On the surface," Dante repeated, each word precise. "Dig deeper, and it gets interesting." Marco swiped through his tablet. "He's been running a long con for at least 5 years. Targets women with assets or savings, isolates them from support systems, convinces them to invest in fake business ventures. 3 confirmed victims before Miss Chen, probably more who didn't report." My fork clattered against the plate. 3? There were 3 other women? Marco's expression softened fractionally. All with similar patterns. Relationship, isolation, fake investment, disappearance with the money. "You were just the most recent. Why isn't he in prison?" My voice came out strangled. "No charges filed. He's careful, uses legal documents, makes it look like failed business ventures rather than fraud. Technically, what he did is civil, not criminal." Marco looked at Dante. "But there's more. The fiancée, Vanessa Hartley. She's not a victim. She's his partner. They've been running this together for 3 years. The pasta turned to ash in my mouth. Vanessa. The woman Marcus had supposedly fallen for. The upgrade he'd traded me in for. She was in on it. They'd planned it together. Every moment of my humiliation had been choreographed. Where is he now? Dante's voice had gone cold, flat. Dangerous. The Hampton residence. Preparing for the engagement party this weekend. Guest list includes several partners from Hartley's firm, a judge, 2 city councilmen. Marco's smile was sharp as glass. Very public event. Good. Dante leaned back, his expression unreadable. Public is perfect. What are you going to do? I asked, though part of me wasn't sure I wanted to know. Dante's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I saw something ancient and merciless swimming in their depths. I'm going to give Marcus Chen exactly what he's been giving others. Humiliation, exposure, the feeling of having everything ripped away while everyone watches. He stood, moving to the windows. By Monday morning, he'll have no job, no fiancé, no reputation, and no money. He'll understand what it feels like to be nothing. How? The word escaped before I could stop it. Marco and Dante exchanged a look. It's better if you don't know the details, Dante said finally. Plausible deniability, which meant illegal, which meant dangerous, which meant I should stop this right now. Should tell him I didn't want revenge, that I just wanted to move on. But I thought about Marcus's laugh on the phone, about the 3 other women he'd destroyed, about Vanessa helping him, both of them laughing at how easy it was to manipulate someone's trust. Do it, I whispered. Dante turned from the window, something like approval warming his features. Marco, begin. I want everything in place by Friday night. Marco nodded and left, taking his tablet and his unsettling knowledge with him. Suddenly alone with Dante, if you could call being in a penthouse with staff and security alone, I felt the weight of everything crash over me. I'd just agreed to let a man I barely knew destroy my ex-fiancé. I'd moved into his home. I'd let him touch me, look at me, speak to me in ways that made my pulse race and my common sense flee. You're thinking too much. Dante crossed the space between us in 3 strides. I can see it in your face. All the reasons this is wrong, all the ways you should run. Shouldn't I? I looked up at him, this beautiful, dangerous stranger. I don't even know who you are. Not really. You know I'm not safe. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my cheek. You know I'm not good. You know that getting involved with me is probably the worst decision you could make. Then why don't I run? His smile was dark, knowing. Because you're tired of being invisible. Because part of you wants to see what happens when someone fights for you instead of against you. He leaned closer, his lips a breath away from my ear. Because you're not as innocent as you pretend, Emma. There's steel underneath all that softness. I saw it that first night in the diner. The way you put your mask back on after crying, the way you kept going even when you were breaking. His words wrapped around me like silk bindings, beautiful and suffocating. What do you want from me? I asked again, needing to understand. Everything. No hesitation. Your trust. Your secrets. Your presence in my life. His hand slid to the nape of my neck, gentle but possessive. I want you to stop hiding. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop letting people like Marcus convince you that you're not worth protecting. And if I can't give you that, you can. Absolute certainty. You will. Because I'm not Marcus, Emma. I don't need to tear you down to feel powerful. I don't need you small and broken. His thumb traced my jawline. I want you strong enough to stand beside me. Strong enough to understand what I am, and choose to stay anyway. What are you? The question trembled out. For a long moment he studied me. Then, decision made. My family, we control things in this city. Imports, exports, certain establishments. We have friends in government, in business, in places where power moves through shadows. He didn't blink, didn't soften it. People call us criminals. We call ourselves businessmen. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Mafia. Jerry had been right. And you're telling me this because I don't lie to people under my protection. Because you deserve to know what you're walking into. His grip tightened fractionally. And because if you're going to run, I'd rather you do it now before... Before what? His jaw clenched. Before I become too invested to let you go. The admission hung between us, raw and honest. This man, this dangerous, powerful, terrifying man, was giving me an out, telling me the truth even though it might drive me away. Marcus had lied with every breath, had used my trust as a weapon. Dante was offering me a choice. "I'm not running," I heard myself say. Something fierce and possessive flared in his eyes. "You should." "Probably." I met his gaze without flinching. "But I'm tired of should. I'm tired of safe. Safe got me an eviction notice and a broken heart. This isn't safe, Emma." His voice dropped to a growl. "I'm not safe. The world I live in, there are rules, enemies, consequences you can't imagine. Then protect me from them." The words came out stronger than I expected. "You said I was under your protection, so protect me. Teach me. Show me how to be strong enough to survive in your world." For 3 heartbeats, he didn't move. Then his hand tightened in my hair, tilting my face up, and his lips crashed against mine. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was possession and promise, demand and devotion. Everything he'd been holding back unleashed in a single moment of contact. I gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until I couldn't remember why I'd ever thought I should run. His other hand found my waist, pulling me flush against him, and I could feel the controlled power in every line of his body, could feel the want, the barely leashed hunger that matched something awakening inside me. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "You're mine now," he said, the words both question and statement. I should have been scared, should have recognized the danger in that tone, in those eyes that held me like I was something precious and breakable in his. Instead, I felt safe for the first time in years. "Yes," I whispered. The smile that curved his lips was pure masculine satisfaction. "Say it. I'm yours. Again. I'm yours, Dante." He kissed me again, softer this time, like sealing a bargain, like marking me as his in ways that had nothing to do with possession and everything to do with protection. When Sophia appeared to show me to my room, I could still taste him on my lips. The room adjoining his was beautiful, all soft grays and creams, with a bed that looked like a cloud, and windows that showed the city spread out below like a kingdom. A kingdom that, tonight, felt a little bit like mine. I fell asleep in sheets that cost more than my security deposit, in a room where I could breathe without counting the cost. And for the first time in months, I didn't dream of losing everything. I dreamed of dark eyes and dangerous promises. I dreamed of being fought for. I dreamed of finally being seen. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through windows that didn't face a brick wall. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. Dante, the penthouse, the kiss that had rearranged something fundamental inside me. I'd kissed a Mafia boss. I'd agreed to be his. And the terrifying part? I didn't regret it. A soft knock interrupted my spiral. "Miss Emma?" Sophia's voice, warm and proper. "Mr. Moretti asked me to let you know breakfast is ready when you are, and he's left some things for you." "Things?" The door opened slightly, and Sophia wheeled in a rack of clothing. Not just clothing, designer pieces with tags still attached. Dresses, jeans, soft sweaters in jewel tones, undergarments that probably cost more than my weekly paycheck used to. "Mr. Moretti noticed you didn't have much with you," Sophia said, her tone suggesting this was perfectly normal behavior. "He took the liberty of having his assistant procure a few essentials." A few essentials. There had to be thousands of dollars worth of clothes on that rack. "I can't accept these." "With respect, Miss Emma, Mr. Moretti is not a man who takes no for an answer when he's decided to care for someone." Sophia's eyes were kind, and between you and me, it's been a very long time since he's cared for anyone. The implication settled over me like a weight. "How long have you known him?" "Since he was 17. Wild, angry boy who'd just lost everything that mattered." She smoothed an invisible wrinkle from a silk blouse. "He built himself back up from nothing. But he did it alone. Hasn't let anyone close in all these years." Her gaze met mine. "Until you." "Why me?" The question burst out. "I'm nobody special. I serve coffee and can't even pay my rent on time." Sophia smiled, gentle and knowing. You're the first person in 15 years who looked at him and didn't see power or fear or opportunity. You just saw a man. She moved toward the door. He's waiting for you. Third door on the left. After she left, I stood there staring at the rack of beautiful things. Things chosen for me, things that said I mattered. I selected a pair of dark jeans that fit perfectly, and a cream sweater soft as a whisper. When I caught my reflection, I barely recognized myself. I looked cared for. Protected. I looked like I belonged. The dining room was different in daylight. The view even more spectacular. The city sprawling beneath us like Dante owned every inch of it. Maybe he did. He stood at the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. He'd showered, his dark hair still damp, wearing black slacks and a charcoal shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Casual power, dangerous beauty. He turned as I entered, and something in his expression shifted, softened. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, not taking his eyes off me. "Yes, it's more important. Handle it." He hung up. "The clothes fit," he observed, moving toward me like a predator who'd spotted prey. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." He reached out, fingers grazing my cheek. "You're under my roof now, Emma, under my protection. That means you don't want for anything." His thumb traced my lower lip. "Understand?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Good. Now eat. We have a busy day." Breakfast was an array of pastries, fresh fruit, omelets that melted on the tongue. I ate while Dante watched, occasionally offering me bites from his own plate with an intimacy that felt earned despite knowing each other less than a week. "Marco called," he said finally, setting down his coffee. "Everything is in place for tonight." "Tonight?" My stomach clenched. Marcus and Vanessa's engagement party. The one where they plan to parade their success in front of everyone who matters. His smile was sharp enough to draw blood. "It's going to be quite the event. What are you going to do?" He corrected. "What we are going to do is make an appearance." My fork clattered against the plate. I can't, he'll be there." "Exactly." Dante leaned forward, capturing my hand. "He's going to see you walk in on my arm, wearing a dress that costs more than he stole from you, looking like the woman you were always meant to be." His grip tightened. "And then he's going to watch his entire life implode." "I don't understand." "You will." He stood, pulling me up with him. "Come. I want to show you something." He led me through the penthouse to a room I hadn't noticed, a study lined with books and dark leather, dominated by a massive desk. Marco sat at a laptop, his expression intent. "Show her," Dante commanded. Marco turned the screen. It displayed what looked like financial records, emails, text messages, evidence. Mountains of it. "Marcus Chen and Vanessa Hartley's entire operation," Marco explained. 5 years of fraud, documented victims, falsified business records. We've also traced the money, offshore accounts, dummy corporations, the whole structure. He clicked to another screen. "Tonight, at precisely 9:30 p.m., this information goes to the FBI, the state attorney's office, and every major news outlet in the city. But that's not all," Dante added, something dark and satisfied in his voice. "At 9 p.m., Vanessa Hartley will receive a video call from one of her former clients, a client she sold out to the prosecutor in exchange for a lighter sentence for a different client who paid better. The call will be on speaker, in front of all her colleagues. How did you—" "I have resources." Dante's hand found the small of my back. "The judge attending tonight? He's about to receive evidence that Hartley bribed a court clerk. The city councilman? They're going to learn that Marcus has been using their names to legitimize his scams." He turned me to face him. "By the time we leave that party, Marcus and Vanessa won't just be finished. They'll be toxic, untouchable. Everything they built on the backs of people they hurt will come crashing down." I should have felt triumph, should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt something darker, something that tasted like justice and revenge and power. "When do we leave?" I asked. Dante's smile was pride and possession. "That's my girl." The rest of the day passed in a blur of preparation. A stylist arrived with a makeup artist, transforming me with subtle skill. The dress Dante had chosen was midnight blue, the color of deep water, with a neckline that hinted without revealing and fabric that clung to curves I'd forgotten I had. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a stranger, someone confident, someone who belonged on the arm of a man like Dante Moretti. Perfect, Dante breathed when I emerged. He was devastating in a tailored black suit, diamond cufflinks catching the light. He looked like sin and salvation wrapped in expensive fabric. He fastened a necklace around my throat, sapphires that probably cost more than my old apartment building. His fingers lingered on my nape, possessive and tender. "These were my mother's," he said quietly. "She died when I was 17. My father, he wasn't a good man. He took everything from her, including her life." His jaw clenched. I swore I'd never let anyone hurt someone under my protection the way he hurt her. Understanding crashed over me. This wasn't just about revenge for my sake. This was about something deeper, older. A boy who couldn't save his mother, channeling that failure into protecting a woman who reminded him that some people were worth saving. "Dante, you're safe with me, Emma." He turned me to face him, always. "No matter what happens tonight or any night, I will burn down anyone who tries to hurt you." The vow should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like coming home. The engagement party was at an exclusive hotel, the kind with doormen in uniforms and crystal chandeliers that cost more than cars. Dante's hand never left my back as we entered, his security detail flanking us at a discreet distance. The ballroom glittered with the city's elite, lawyers, judges, business people, all here to celebrate Marcus and Vanessa's upcoming marriage, all about to witness their downfall. I saw him first. Marcus, in a suit that didn't quite fit right, laughing too loud, working the room with practiced charm. Then Vanessa, beautiful, cold, perfect in a white dress that screamed bridal. Marcus's gaze swept the room and landed on us. His face went pale, then red, then an interesting shade of purple. "Emma?" His voice carried, drawing attention. "What the hell are you doing here?" Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. Dante's hand tightened on my waist, a silent reminder of his presence, his support. "Marcus." I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Congratulations on your engagement." He stalked toward us, Vanessa following with narrowed eyes. "You weren't invited. You need to leave before I have security." "I don't think so." Dante's voice cut through the room like a blade. Quiet, but everyone heard. "Emma is my guest. My companion." He emphasized the last word, making it clear exactly what he meant. "I'm Dante Moretti." The name rippled through the crowd. Recognition, fear, respect. Dante didn't need to explain who he was. His reputation preceded him. Marcus's courage faltered. "I don't care who you are. She's not welcome. Careful." The single word from Dante carried enough threat to make Marcus step back. "You're talking about someone under my protection. I take that very seriously." Vanessa put a hand on Marcus's arm. "Perhaps we should all just—" Her phone rang. She glanced at it, confusion crossing her face. "It's a blocked number. Answer it," Dante suggested, his tone conversational. "You'll want to take this call." Something in his voice made her obey. She swiped to answer, putting it on speaker before she could stop herself. "Vanessa Hartley?" A man's voice, rough with rage. "Remember me? Tony Messina, the client you fucking sold out 3 years ago. Took my money, promised you'd get me off, then handed my confession to the prosecution." Vanessa's face drained of color. Around us, her colleagues from the law firm stiffened. "I don't know what you're—" "Don't lie. I've got proof. Recordings of our conversations, bank transfers, all of it." The voice turned vicious. "I did 5 years because of you, bitch. 5 years while you used my case as a stepping stone. But guess what? I'm out now, and everyone's about to know exactly what kind of lawyer you are." The call ended. Silence. Then chaos. Partners from Vanessa's firm surrounded her, voices low and furious. The judge Dante had mentioned stood abruptly, his face thunderous, phone pressed to his ear, receiving his own revelation, I realized. Marcus grabbed Vanessa's arm. "What the hell was that? What did you do?" "I didn't, it's not." She looked around wildly, seeing her career imploding in real time. Dante checked his watch. "It's 9:30. As if on cue, Phones started buzzing. Everyone checking messages, news alerts, emails. Faces paled. Shocked murmurs rippled through the room. "Someone leaked it," a woman gasped, staring at her phone. "Marcus Chen and Vanessa Hartley. Fraud investigation. Federal charges pending." "Oh my God, there are victims. Multiple victims." Marcus's phone rang, then Vanessa's. Then half the room's devices erupted in a cacophony of buzzing and ringing. Marcus looked at me, finally understanding. "You did this. You bitter." Dante moved faster than I could track, catching Marcus's wrist before he could reach me. "Don't." The word was a death sentence delivered in a whisper. "Don't even think about touching her." Marcus tried to pull away. Dante's grip tightened until Marcus gasped in pain. "You like hurting women," Dante continued, still in that terrifying quiet voice. "Stealing from them. Breaking them. Making them feel worthless." He leaned closer. "How does it feel, Marcus? How does it feel to have everything taken away while everyone watches? Please." "Emma." Dante didn't release Marcus, but his eyes found mine. "What do you want me to do with him?" The question hung in the air. This was my choice. My revenge. I looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. Saw past the panic to the pathetic man underneath. The con artist. The coward who preyed on trust. "Let him go," I said. Dante's eyebrow rose. "Are you sure?" "He's not worth it." I moved closer, standing beside Dante. "He's going to prison. He's lost everything. That's enough." Dante released him, and Marcus stumbled back. "You're nobody, Emma," Marcus spat, his last pathetic attempt at control. "You'll always be—" "She's mine," Dante interrupted, his arm sliding around my waist. "She's under my protection. She wears my mother's jewels. She sleeps in my home." Each statement was a hammer blow. "And you? You're about to be inmate number whatever they assign you." He smiled, cold and final. "Who's nobody now?" We left them there. Marcus and Vanessa, surrounded by federal agents who'd apparently been waiting outside. Colleagues backing away like they were contagious. Their perfect party dissolved into handcuffs and Miranda rights. In the car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. "How do you feel?" Dante asked, pulling me against him. "Like I can breathe," I admitted. For the first time in years, his lips found my temple. "Good. Because you're never going to feel suffocated again. Never going to worry about rent or some pathetic man making you feel small." His hand cupped my face, tilting it up. "You understand? You're mine now, Emma. And I protect what's mine." The possessiveness should have scared me. Should have reminded me of Marcus's control, but this was different. This was choice. This was power shared, not stolen. This was finally being worth fighting for. "Take me home," I whispered. His smile was dark promise. Always. The weeks that followed felt like living in a dream I was afraid to wake from. Marcus and Vanessa made headlines for 3 days straight. Federal fraud charges, disbarment proceedings, victims coming forward with stories that made mine look tame. The media dissected their operation with the kind of fervor reserved for truly spectacular falls from grace. By the end of the first week, they'd both accepted plea deals. 7 years for Marcus, 5 for Vanessa, plus restitution to all victims. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I felt free. Free to wake up in sheets that smelled like expensive detergent and Dante's cologne. Free to drink coffee on a terrace overlooking a city that no longer felt hostile. Free to exist without constantly calculating what I could afford to lose next. But freedom, I was learning, came with complications. "You need to eat more than that," Dante said, watching me push eggs around my plate. We'd fallen into a routine. Breakfast together when he wasn't handling business, though I still wasn't entirely sure what that business entailed. "I'm not hungry." "You're thinking too much again." He set down his coffee, those dark eyes reading me like I was a book written in his native language. "What's wrong?" "Everything." "Nothing." How did I explain that I felt like Cinderella after midnight, waiting for the glass slippers to shatter? "I can't stay here forever," I said finally. "I need to find a job, get my own place." "No." The word was absolute. "Dante, you're not leaving. He stood, moving around the table with predatory grace. Why would you even think about leaving? Because this isn't real life, the words burst out. Real life is rent and bills and working for minimum wage. Real life isn't living in a penthouse with a man who... I stopped. A man who what? He pulled me to my feet, hands firm on my shoulders. Say it, Emma. A man who's going to get bored of his charity project. There. The fear that had been eating at me since that first night. You saved me from Marcus. And that was God. That was more than I deserved. But eventually you'll realize I'm just some waitress with nothing to offer and... His mouth crashed against mine, silencing the spiral. The kiss was demanding, possessive, leaving no room for doubt or fear. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. You think this is charity? His voice was rough. You think I brought you here out of pity? What else would it be? Obsession. The confession came out raw. From the moment I saw you in that diner, apologizing for existing, I couldn't stop thinking about you, about the strength it took to smile for customers after crying in a back room, about the vulnerability you tried so hard to hide. His hand slid to cup my face. I've built an empire on reading people, Emma, on knowing their weaknesses and exploiting them. But you? You're not weak. You survived a predator and came out still capable of kindness, still capable of hope. I'm not special. You are to me. The words hung between us, weighted with meaning. I haven't let anyone close in 15 years. Haven't wanted to. But you walked into my life and made me remember what it felt like to want to protect something, to care if someone lived or died. His thumb traced my cheekbone. So no. You're not leaving. You're not getting your own place. You're staying here, with me, where I can keep you safe. That's not how this works, I whispered, even as my heart raced. You can't just keep me like what? Like something precious? Like something worth protecting? His eyes darkened. Watch me. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something shifted in his expression. Not quite anger, but close. I have to handle something, he said, releasing me reluctantly. Marco will be here in 10 minutes. Stay in the penthouse until I get back. What's wrong? Business. He kissed me again, quick and hard. Nothing for you to worry about. But I did worry. Because in the 3 weeks I'd been living here, I'd started to understand the layers of Dante's world. The phone calls at odd hours, the men who came and went, speaking in low voices, the tension that sometimes sat across his shoulders like a physical weight. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a king in a kingdom built on shadows. And kings had enemies. Marco arrived exactly on time, his sharp features concerned. Ms. Chen, Mr. Moretti asked me to stay with you until he returns. What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about, he said, but his hand rested near his jacket where I knew he carried a gun. Just routine. Routine didn't require armed guards. I spent the afternoon trying to distract myself. Read a book I couldn't focus on. Attempted to sketch. Something I hadn't done since before Marcus. But my hands were too restless. Finally, I ended up on the terrace, watching the city sprawl below. You care about him. Marco's voice came from behind me. He'd been silent for hours, a watchful presence. Is that a question? An observation. He moved to stand beside me, his gaze on the skyline. He's different with you. Calmer. Less, he searched for the word. Volatile. He doesn't seem volatile to me. Marco's laugh was sharp. That's because you don't see him in meetings. Don't see how he handles threats or betrayals. He paused. He's a good man, Ms. Chen, but he's also a dangerous one. The world he operates in doesn't forgive weakness or mercy. Why are you telling me this? Because he's going to give you a choice soon. And you need to understand what you're choosing. Marco's eyes met mine. If you stay, you become part of this world, part of his world. That means protection, yes. But it also means danger. It means enemies who might use you to hurt him. It means living with secrets and violence, and decisions that blur lines most people don't even know exist. My stomach clenched. And if I leave, he'll let you go. He'll make sure you're safe, set up somewhere comfortable, but it will destroy something in him. Marco's expression was unreadable. He lost his mother to his father's violence, Spent 15 years building walls so thick nothing could penetrate them. You're the first person to get through. If you leave, I'm not leaving." The words came out certain, surprising us both. Marco studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Good." Because he needs someone who sees the man under the monster. Dante returned as the sun was setting, the city lights beginning to shimmer like captured stars. He looked tired, tension in every line of his body, but when he saw me, something eased. "Everything okay?" I asked. "It is now." He pulled me against him, burying his face in my hair. Just breathing, just holding. We stood like that for long minutes, the city sprawling below us, until finally he pulled back. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Something I should have told you weeks ago." My heart stuttered. "Okay." He led me to the living room, poured 2 glasses of wine with hands that weren't quite steady. When he spoke, he didn't meet my eyes. "My father, the man who killed my mother, he didn't just hurt her. He controlled her, made her feel like she was nothing without him, made her believe she deserved his violence." His jaw clenched. By the time I was old enough to understand, she was too broken to leave, too afraid. When she finally tried, when she finally found the courage to take me and run, he found us, killed her, made me watch. Horror flooded through me. "Dante." I was 17. The family, my uncle, the men who worked for my father, they took me in, taught me how to survive in this world, how to be strong enough that no one could ever hurt me or mine again. He finally looked at me. "But I also learned how easy it is to become what you hate, to cross lines until you can't remember where they were. I've done things, Emma, things I can't take back, things that would make you see me differently if you knew. Tell me," I said quietly. "I've hurt people who threatened my family. I've destroyed businesses that competed with ours. I've made decisions that cost people their livelihoods, sometimes their lives." His voice was flat, emotionless. "I tell myself it's business. That I'm not like my father because I follow codes, because I protect my people. But the truth is, I'm capable of terrible things when someone threatens what's mine." He waited, watching for disgust or fear. Instead, I moved closer, taking his face in my hands. "You're not your father. How can you know that? Because your father would never admit what he was, would never question his choices, would never look at someone he cared about and worry that he wasn't good enough for them." I held his gaze. "You're not a monster, Dante. You're a man who survived a monster and built something from the ruins. I'm still dangerous." "I know." I smiled slightly. "That's not the deterrent you think it is." Something like wonder crossed his face. "You should run from me." "Probably." I kissed him softly. "But I'm choosing to stay, choosing you. All of you. The protection and the danger, the gentleness and the violence, the man and the myth." His arms came around me, crushing me against him. "You're mine," he breathed against my hair. "Tell me you understand that you're choosing this, choosing us, knowing exactly what it means." "I'm yours," I confirmed. "And you're mine. That's how this works, right? Protection goes both ways?" His laugh was surprised, delighted. "Yes. God, yes." He pulled back just enough to look at me. "I love you. I've loved you since that first night when you came back from crying and you chose strength over surrender." The words hit like lightning, illuminating everything. "I love you too," I whispered. "Even though you're terrifying and possessive, and probably bad for my life expectancy." "Especially because of that," he corrected, and kissed me until the city lights blurred and the only thing that mattered was this. Us, together, choosing each other despite every logical reason not to. That night, he made love to me with a tenderness that contrasted sharply with his reputation. Worshipped every inch of skin like I was something sacred, whispered promises in Italian that I didn't understand but felt in my bones. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets that smelled like us, I felt something settle into place, something that had been fractured since Marcus, maybe since before. "What happens now?" I asked, tracing patterns on his chest. "Now you stop hiding. Stop pretending you're nobody." He caught my hand, pressing a kiss to my palm. "You're Dante Moretti's woman. That means something in this city. That means you're untouchable. That sounds isolating. It's powerful." He shifted to look at me. "But you don't have to be alone in it. I'll teach you to navigate this world, introduce you to the people who matter, show you how to hold your own in rooms full of predators. And if I want to do something, work, create, build something of my own, then you do it." He said it like it was obvious. "You think I want a trophy? Someone decorative and empty? I want a partner, Emma. Someone strong enough to stand beside me, not behind me." The idea took root, fragile but growing. A life not just survived, but lived. Not just protected, but powerful. "I want to go back to school," I said suddenly. "I dropped out when everything fell apart, but I was studying art therapy, helping people heal through creativity." Dante's smile was proud. "Then you'll go back. I'll handle the tuition, the logistics, everything. I want to pay my own way. You will. By being mine. By choosing this life, you're taking on risks that most people can't imagine. That's payment enough." He kissed me softly. "Let me give you this, Emma. Let me give you the chance to become who you were meant to be." Tears burned behind my eyes, but these were good tears, healing tears. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." 6 months later, I stood in a gallery showing my own work, paintings and mixed media pieces exploring themes of survival, transformation, and strength in broken things. The opening was packed with collectors, art critics, and society people who'd come because Dante Moretti's woman was unveiling her first show, but they stayed because the work was good. Dante stood slightly apart, watching with an expression that made my heart swell. Pride. Possession. Love. "She's talented," I heard someone say nearby, "and brave, choosing subjects this raw." "Did you hear how they met?" someone else whispered. "Apparently her ex tried to destroy her, and Moretti made him disappear." Not quite accurate, but close enough. Marcus and Vanessa were both serving their sentences, and I'd learned through Marco that several of their other victims had received anonymous restitution payments. Dante's way of balancing scales. When the crowd finally thinned, Dante approached, pulling me against him with familiar possessiveness. "I'm proud of you," he murmured against my hair. "I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. I just made it happen faster." He tilted my face up. "You were always strong, Emma. Always capable of this. You just needed someone to remind you." "My ex told me I'd die alone," I said quietly. "That no one would fight for me." Dante's expression darkened. "Your ex was a fool. He was wrong." I smiled, genuine and bright, because I found someone who didn't just fight for me. He taught me to fight for myself. And you found someone who was dying slowly until you reminded him what living felt like. He kissed me, soft and deep. "We saved each other, tesoro, treasure." He'd explained the endearment weeks ago, along with other Italian words he murmured in the dark. "Amore mio, cuore mio, my love, my heart, take me home," I said, echoing words from that first night. His smile was pure masculine satisfaction. Always. We left the gallery hand in hand, his security detail falling into formation around us. The car waited at the curb, that same black SUV that had carried me away from my old life into this new one. As we drove through the city lights, Dante's hand never left mine, and I realized something profound. I hadn't just survived Marcus's cruelty. I'd transformed it into strength, into art, into a life I'd built alongside a man who saw my worth when I'd forgotten it existed. My ex had laughed and said I'd die alone. Instead, I'd found home in the arms of a man who'd burn the world down before letting anyone hurt me again. I'd found power in my own voice, my own choices, my own strength, I'd found love in the most unexpected place, in the dark eyes of a dangerous man who'd spent 15 years building walls, only to tear them down for a woman who'd learned that sometimes the most terrifying risks lead to the most beautiful rewards. "What are you thinking?" Dante asked, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "That I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." His smile was tender and fierce. "Yes, you are, with me. Always with me." Always, I agreed. And as the city lights blurred past the windows, I thought about Marcus one last time. About his cruel prediction. About how wrong he'd been. I wouldn't die alone. I'd live fiercely. Loved, protected, powerful. I'd live as Dante Moretti's woman, his partner, his equal. I'd live as Emma Chen, artist and survivor, broken things made beautiful, and that was worth more than Marcus could ever understand. The penthouse welcomed us home with warm light and the scent of Sophia's cooking. Dante pulled me close on the terrace, the city sprawling below us like a kingdom we ruled together. "I love you," he said. The words easier now than they'd been months ago. "I love you too," I replied, and meant it with every fiber of my being. This was my life now. Not perfect, but mine. Not safe, but worth the risk. This was my happily ever after. Fought for, earned, and held on to with both hands. And I'd never let it go.